All right, meantime, it was also a busy day in the chip space. Nvidia and AMD both making announcements at a conference in Taiwan called Computex. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang revealing details about the company's next generation chip platform, I guess you could say, while AMD launched its new AI processor. Joining us now is John Vinh, KeyBanc Capital Markets equity research analyst. John, great to see you again. So how do we weigh all of these announcements? You know, Nvidia not giving us a lot of detail on what they're calling Rubin, which is what's going to follow Blackwell. But the market seemed to greet that announcement, though, better than it did anything we got from some of the other chip makers.
Yeah, I think the market was kind of focused on a couple things with Nvidia here. You know, obviously they have committed to coming out with an annual kind of product cadence in terms of releasing new GPU architectures, right? So Rubin was kind of very much in line with it, right? So you've got Blackwell ramps at the end of this year. Next year, they also announced Blackwell Ultra, and then you've got Rubin in 2026. But I think the most important thing that investors have really been kind of keying in and focusing on with NVIDIA is this whole shift to this whole full server system stack platform, starting with GB200 and VL72, right? So NVIDIA is going to be shifting from shipping chips and boards to their customers to basically now shipping, full server rack systems with networking CPUs and GPUs all integrated into one hardware stack.
John, just to push a bit more on Rubin, I know maybe details were a bit scant, but what did we learn, John? What do we know about Rubin?
We didn't hear a whole lot about Rubin, but I think if you look at NVIDIA's historical cadence, each of their next generations of chips are going to use, two different things. You typically have a pretty substantial performance improvement, typically 40 to 50% performance improvement. And then increasingly, they are also shifting to, higher performance, high bandwidth memory. So, Blackwell is coming out, which is going to use HBM3E. It's likely that Rubin's going to use the next generation high bandwidth memory called HBM4.
John, what we all kind of keep trying to get our arms around is how long can NVIDIA continue this pace? And I know that you have on the street relatively high expectations going forward. We talked to one analyst this morning who said that the market cap for NVIDIA could exceed $10 trillion by 2030. Does that make sense to you? Do you think we're going to continue this pace?
I think NVIDIA has an extremely bright path ahead of itself, right? We're in the very early stages of the generative AI cycle. And, like a lot of chip companies, you get into this cadence where they're just releasing, version 2.0, version 3.0, which are just, slightly better versions of, version 1.0. But if you look at what NVIDIA is really doing, they're really still taking really substantial shifts in architectures, right? They've gone from making chips to kind of integrated, AI board solutions to now fully integrated kind of heterogeneous compute server stacks, which is, allowing them to kind of maintain their leadership above their competitors.
And John, AMD made some news here too. I'm interested to get your kind of take broadly, John. CEO Lisa Su, can she kind of effectively compete here, in your opinion, John? Can she keep up with Jensen Huang?
I think she can. The question is, for AMD to win, right, they don't have to get 70 to 80% market share, right? But she's has a phenomenal track record of executing on the PC front with Ryzen. On the server front, they've been able to go from almost zero share, and now they've got close to 30% share of the server market versus Intel. So she's got a great track record of execution there. She's also got a very strong customer base within the data center, which she's using as a foothold to get, to launch their AI chips, MI300X. So yes, I think she can compete. I think she's got a great track record. I also think that, the market is really badly looking for a credible second source to NVIDIA. NVIDIA is making 90% gross margins on its AI chips, which is unheard of in the chip industry. Those are like software margins. And the industry badly wants a credible second source on the merchant side.
John, switching gears, before you go, I just want to get your reaction because there was a surprise leadership change at Lattice Semiconductor. The CEO, Jim Anderson, leaving the company and going over to Coherent. What do you make of that, and where does that leave Lattice?
Yeah, we certainly were surprised by that announcement. Jim Anderson has been, credited in our view for a big part of the turnaround story at Lattice. Coming in, identifying that this was a really, highly valuable asset, and making changes within the company, and also bringing in a very strong management team. He also has a very strong track record. Coming from AMD, is largely responsible for a lot of the success of Ryzen. So, we're a little bit concerned, because if you look at Lattice, we think they've got very bright prospects ahead of themselves. They're gaining share within the small FPGA market. They're also launching their mid-range Avant product, which is basically going to double their TAM. So, with that kind of ahead of themselves, we're surprised that he kind of left for Coherent at this point.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on it to see who ends up running Lattice on a more permanent basis. John, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.